Hello and welcome, football fans. You're watching Speed Cup TV. Today, we bring you one of the most exciting matches of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. A thrilling game filled with intensity, incredible attacking football, unforgettable moments, and non-stop action until the final whistle. In this report, we'll take you through all the goals, the match highlights, the standout performances, and the biggest moments of the game. If you love football, stay with Speed Cup TV until the end. Now, let's get straight into today's exciting match.
Elite sports are fundamentally built on this really ruthless biological timeline. You hit 30 and physically...
You've peaked.
Right, exactly. You've peaked. And by 35 in, well, most disciplines anyway, you're essentially a veteran. You're just hoping to, manage your decline gracefully from the bench.
Yeah, holding on as long as you can.
Exactly. But when you look at the 2026 World Cup right now, the two athletes commanding the absolute most gravity, the ones who are dictating the entire global conversation, are a 39-year-old and a 41-year-old.
Right. Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they are completely defying that normal biological timeline.
Yeah, they really are.
But what's so interesting, and this is what the recent ESPN FC broadcast coverage has really heavily focused on, is that they aren't doing it alone. They literally fundamentally cannot do it alone anymore.
Right, the team has to compensate.
Exactly. The tactical scaffolding that's required to just, keep them at the pinnacle of the sport is incredibly demanding on everyone else.
And that is exactly what we are getting into today on the deep dive. Because whether you're, actively tracking the group stages every day or you're just fascinated by the mechanics of peak human performance, we are pulling apart the tactical and, the cultural phenomena surrounding these two players.
Yeah, because we're looking really closely at the sources today to see how national teams are completely rewiring their tactical ecosystems just to accommodate aging genius.
It's wild. And the staggering global ripple effect that plays out when they actually do it. Because this goes way, way beyond just a simple sports recap.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about who scored. When you watch these two play right now, you are watching managers walk this really precarious tactical tightrope.
Yeah, every single choice matters.
Right. Every formation choice, every single substitution, it all has to be perfectly calibrated to hide a physical deficit.
So let's start with the tactical dilemma of aging by looking at Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Because he is 41 years old now. And in Portugal's opening match in Group K, they were held to a very surprising 1-1 draw against DR Congo.
Which nobody really saw coming.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And the ESPN FC pundits immediately zoomed in on Portugal's manager, Roberto Martinez. They looked at basically the systemic failure of his starting lineup.
Yeah, the critique of Martinez in the broadcast was heavy. Really heavy. And it comes down to the sheer physical realities of operating in a high-speed environment.
Right.
At 41, Ronaldo simply does not have the explosive first step anymore. He can't make those dynamic runs into open space behind a really high defensive line.
10 years ago, he would have destroyed them.
Oh, yeah. 10 years ago, if a midfielder played a ball into 50 yards of empty grass, Ronaldo would just beat the defender in a foot race every single time. But today, that biological reality is just gone.
Right. So his game has had to adapt. Because of that lost pace, he's now operating essentially as a static target man.
Exactly.
He just camps out in the penalty box. He relies entirely on his anticipation, his positioning, and, his leaping ability, which is still incredible.
Yeah.
But he's looking for very specific service now, primarily near post and far post crosses.
He needs the ball brought directly to him.
Exactly. Brought right to him in dangerous areas because he literally can no longer go fetch it himself.
And that is exactly where Martinez's tactical setup just failed so noticeably against DR Congo. The broadcast pointed out that Martinez started Bernardo Silva and Pedro Neto on the wings.
Right, and they're
what you call inverted wingers. So their natural instinct is not to run down the sideline to the byline and, loop a high cross into the center.
Right. Their instinct is the exact opposite.
Yeah, their instinct is to drive the ball inward toward the middle of the pitch to look for a shot or maybe a short pass.
Which is the absolute last thing a static striker needs. If your wingers are constantly driving into the center of the pitch, they're basically dragging their defenders right into the exact space Ronaldo's already occupying.
It just clogs the entire middle of the field.
Exactly. Instead of stretching the defense wide to create gaps for a cross, the setup actively starved a 41-year-old striker of the exact type of service he absolutely requires to be effective.
It was glaring. I mean, it was so bad that Martinez actually had to pull Bernardo Silva off right at halftime just to try and, like, fix the geometry of the pitch.
And the core argument from the pundits was basically that you cannot put a player with Ronaldo's current physical limitations on the pitch and then play a system that completely ignores those requirements.
You have to build the machine around the specific part you're trying to utilize.
Right. It's like, I was thinking about this. It's like having a vintage, high-performance luxury car. It still has incredible power. It's a classic. But it requires a highly specific, super rare type of fuel to run. If you put standard gas in it, the whole engine sputters.
That's a great way to look at it. You either buy the expensive fuel or you don't drive the car.
Exactly. But let me challenge this for a second, because I think a lot of people watching that 1-1 draw were asking this exact same question.
Okay, what's the challenge?
Well, if a striker is 41 years old, right?
Yeah.
And he totally lacks the mobility to create his own space, and he requires the manager to completely abandon the natural play styles of his other world-class forwards just to feed him crosses.
Yeah.
Is it really Roberto Martinez's fault for getting the setup wrong? Or has the player simply become a tactical liability who dictates way too much of the team's shape?
Oh, man. I mean, that is the defining debate around Portugal right now. It really is. But the counter-argument that the ESPN crew raised to that is all about this concept of gravity.
Gravity.
Yeah. Even stationary, Ronaldo's historical output and his sheer presence create a really unique type of panic in a defense. Because he is Cristiano Ronaldo, center backs are just naturally attracted to him. They overcommit.
Right, because they don't want to be the guy who leaves him unmarked for an easy tap-in. You'd never live that down.
Exactly. And theoretically, drawing two defenders in the box is supposed to open up space on the perimeter for the other attackers to exploit.
Yeah.
There was actually this highly entertaining moment on the panel that highlighted perfectly how defenders think about this. One pundit, who used to be a defender, argued that his strategy would be to keep Ronaldo in his back pocket all game long.
Oh, right, the whole translation debate. That was so funny.
Yes. Because he meant that he would stay touch tight, keeping his head on a swivel, constantly monitoring Ronaldo because the threat of him poaching a goal is just ever present.
He meant it as a massive sign of respect.
Exactly, respect for Ronaldo's danger. But another pundit had to jump in immediately and clarify that in English football vernacular, having a player in your back pocket means you have completely nullified them.
Yeah, it means you've physically dominated them and rendered them entirely useless.
Right. It was a hilarious misunderstanding, but it perfectly illustrates the mental tax Ronaldo imposes. You have to dedicate immense mental and physical resources just to manage him, which inherently alters the geometry of the game for both teams.
But, that reliance on external service brings us to the other side of this biological coin. Let's talk about Lionel Messi.
Yeah, let's pivot to Messi.
He's about to turn 39. He's facing the exact same physical decay, right? The exact same loss of explosive pace. But he has solved this aging problem in a completely different way.
And according to the broadcast, he is actually aging better because of it.
Which is a bold claim.
It is, but the proof was immediately evident in Argentina's opening game against Algeria, where Messi scored a spectacular hat-trick.
3 goals in a World Cup at almost 39 is it's a historic anomaly. It defies logic.
It really does. But the pundits attributed this not to, better fitness or anything, but to a fundamental difference in his positional evolution.
How so?
Well, they made the point that throughout his entire career, nobody ever really criticized Messi for not running in behind the defense. That vertical, explosive running was never the structural foundation of his playmaking.
Right. He was never really a foot race guy in the same way. So his transition into an older body has been way less jarring to his team's overall tactical shape.
Exactly. Instead of waiting high up the pitch for the game to be brought to him, like Ronaldo does, Messi drops incredibly deep into the midfield.
He comes all the way down to get a feel for the ball.
Yeah, he picks it up off his own defenders, and he dictates the tempo and flow of the attack from 40 yards out.
It reminds me of an aging heavyweight boxer. Like a guy who realizes he can no longer win a 12-round brawl in the center of the ring,
Yeah, he doesn't have the stamina for a slugfest anymore.
Right. So instead of trying to match the younger fighter's physical output, he changes his stance entirely. He fights off his back foot, he uses his jab just to manage the distance, and he makes the opponent step into his traps.
That's exactly what Messi does.
He's managing the distance of the entire pitch. He slows the game down to a walking pace and then suddenly accelerates the pass. rather than accelerating his own body. It's like he realized he can't be the queen darting across the chessboard anymore, so he just became the hand moving the pieces.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And because he controls the board from a deeper central position, he isn't dependent on the specific crossing habits of his wingers the way a penalty box striker is.
He doesn't need perfect crosses.
Right. He can thread a through ball to a winger who cuts inside, or he can play a wide pass to a fullback making an overlapping run. He adapts to the players around him rather than requiring them to adapt entirely to his location.
I hear that, and I have to push back on the framing the pundits used here.
Okay, let's hear it.
They noted that Ronaldo faces these incredibly harsh critiques, right? Like people constantly asking if he's holding Portugal back.
Yeah.
While nobody, literally nobody, ever questions if Messi should be in the starting 11 for Argentina.
Yeah, the media treatment is very different.
But is that actually a fair comparison to make? I mean, Ronaldo is a traditional number 9. That position, by definition, requires service. Messi is a playmaker. So is Messi really aging more gracefully, or does he just have the luxury of playing a position that naturally masks the physical decline of aging?
It's a completely fair pushback, and the broadcast actually did touch on that exact tension. It is a structurally unfair comparison in many ways.
Right, because they do totally different jobs.
Exactly. The demands of a striker are entirely different from a deep-lying playmaker. However, football is a results-driven business, and the reality on the pitch is what dictates the global narrative.
So it doesn't matter if it's fair.
Pretty much. Whether it's fair to Ronaldo's specific role or not, Messi's ability to exert direct influence on the scoreboard, regardless of the immediate tactical shape around him, is what spares him from that holding the team back conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ronaldo's positional requirements simply make his physical decline far more visible, and far more disruptive, honestly, if the setup isn't perfectly calibrated.
Which brings us to the brutal truth the ESPN crew uncovered beneath all of this individual analysis. We spend so much time talking about Messi's innate genius, or Ronaldo's undeniable gravity, but at this stage in their careers.
That individual brilliance is an absolute illusion without an impeccably designed ecosystem to support it.
An illusion.
The broadcast was highly analytical about this. They highlighted that Argentina's success, both during their 2022 run and now in the early stages of 2026, is predicated entirely on a setup where the other players willingly accept that they work for the genius.
They know their role. In fact, one of the pundits on the broadcast made a claim that honestly shocked me. He was breaking down Argentina's midfield, and he said, quote, "If Messi doesn't have 10 other fantastic teammates, Messi doesn't exist."
It is a really stark way to phrase it, but they applied that exact same logic to Portugal too. Their argument was that if Portugal genuinely wants Ronaldo to shine in this tournament, the other 10 men on the pitch have to completely change their mindset.
They have to dedicate themselves entirely to serving his specific needs.
Yeah.
But I have to challenge that specific quote, though. Saying a player like Lionel Messi doesn't exist without 10 fantastic teammates feels incredibly hyperbolic.
You think it goes too far?
I do. Even on a poorly constructed team, the raw talent doesn't just vanish. A genius is a genius, right? He would still possess the highest football IQ on the pitch. He would still see the passing lanes nobody else sees. Saying he doesn't exist kind of strips him of his own agency and talent.
Well, the innate talent doesn't vanish. You're correct about that. The vision and the technique are permanent. But the pundit was speaking to the harsh tactical reality of modern elite-level football, which is defined by relentless high-intensity pressing. The first line of defense is usually the forwards sprinting to close down the opposing defenders.
Right.
If you have a 39-year-old player who is literally walking around the pitch to conserve energy, which Messi notoriously does, the entire structural integrity of your team's defense breaks down instantly.
Because the opposing center backs suddenly have all the time in the world to pick a pass. They aren't being pressured.
Exactly. So to prevent the opposing team from just walking right through the middle of the pitch, Argentina's midfielders have to push up higher to cover the space. Messi isn't pressing.
Nice.
And that leaves a gap behind the midfielders, which means the defenders have to step up higher. Every single player has to increase their physical output, sprint faster, and cover roughly 10% more ground just to plug the structural holes created by one walking player.
So they're essentially acting as his physical engine.
That's exactly it. They're absorbing the physical toll of a 90-minute match so that the superstar can safely hoard his limited energy reserves for those, 3 or 4 split-second moments where he actually touches the ball and impacts the game.
Wow.
The pundit isn't saying Messi loses his talent. He's saying that without the physical, lung-bursting sacrifice of the ecosystem around him, Messi's talent is rendered tactically inaccessible. If the team doesn't run for him, he never gets the ball in a position to use that genius.
That reframes it completely. The system absorbs the cost of his age so his feet don't have to. And what's so deeply fascinating about this dynamic is how that highly localized 10-man ecosystem on the pitch translates into this massive, borderless cultural ecosystem off the pitch.
The global resonance of these players is truly staggering, and the broadcast painted a really vivid picture of how far it reaches. Take the aftermath of that DR Congo and Portugal match, for instance.
Okay.
The crew showed footage of a small, incredibly passionate group of DR Congo fans in a public fan zone in Lisbon.
Wait, celebrating right in the heart of the Portuguese capital?
Yes, exactly. They were celebrating their 1-1 draw, just creating absolute scenes of joy, while completely surrounded by a sea of stony-faced Portuguese locals.
That is amazing.
And the pundits noted this is a recurring theme of this tournament. Smaller nations like Curacao and Congo are scoring goals on the biggest stage, and it's prompting massive eruptions of joy back home, inspiring younger generations who are watching these global giants stumble.
And just for context for you listening on how wild the group stages are right now,
Yeah.
Portugal isn't even leading Group K. Colombia is currently sitting on top after a decisive 3-1 win over Uzbekistan. But even with all that local national pride surging for smaller countries, the gravity of these aging superstars still somehow transcends borders.
But it really does.
Like the broadcast shared this incredible visual of university campuses in Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh.
Packing into massive open-air fan zones just to celebrate Argentina.
Right. Bangladesh famously hosted some of the most viral, passionate Argentina fan bases during the 2022 World Cup. And the ESPN crew noted that the passion has not faded one bit in 2026.
Not all.
The pundits talked about traveling the world and seeing kids in literally every single country, wearing Messi Inter Miami shirts and Ronaldo El Nasser shirts.
Yeah.
They used the phrase that these two players ascend the sport and have become almost bigger than football itself.
It's a remarkable cultural phenomenon. You really don't see this in many other sports.
But I want to dig into the why of that. Like, how does the connective tissue of sports work so powerfully that a crowded university campus in Bangladesh, a country thousands of miles away with its own distinct culture, erupts into total euphoria over a 39-year-old man from Argentina scoring a goal against Algeria?
It's a great question.
What is the actual psychological mechanism connecting those 2 points on the globe?
Well, according to the sources, it really comes down to the ultimate power of a shared digitized human narrative. We have to remember that Messi and Ronaldo are the first true superstars of the fully digital, social media saturated era.
Oh, that's true. They grew up alongside YouTube.
Exactly. A young fan in Dhaka hasn't just watched Messi play every 4 years at the World Cup. They have had access to every single highlight, every goal on their phones since they were children. They have formed a 2-decade-long parasocial relationship with these athletes.
So it's deeply personal, even from a distance.
Highly personal. When people tune in to watch them right now, they aren't just watching a ball go into a net. They are tuning in to witness the culmination of a storyline they have followed their entire lives.
That makes a lot of sense.
The broadcast noted that a World Cup hat-trick by Messi will be watched live by millions, sure, but then it'll be rewatched and shared billions of times on social platforms afterward.
Billions. With a B.
Because it's living history. The physical decline we spent all this time analyzing, the lack of running, the tactical vulnerability actually heightens the emotional stakes for the audience.
Because they know the end is near.
Exactly. The fans know the window is closing. Every single goal feels like a brief, defiant victory against time itself. Celebrating that goal in a fan zone is a way to actively participate in a piece of global history before the era permanently ends.
Wow. So as you watch the rest of this tournament unfold, keep an eye on the friction between that massive historical narrative and the raw tactical reality on the pitch. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We looked at the profound tactical struggles of a 41-year-old striker whose lack of mobility starves him of the service he desperately needs.
Right.
We examined the brilliant positional evolution of a playmaker who drops deep to hide his physical decline. We unpacked the absolute necessity of a selfless 10-man ecosystem willing to do the running to protect that aging genius.
Yeah, that physical engine.
And we explored how these two legends leave a borderless cultural impact that unites university students in Bangladesh with fans celebrating in Lisbon.
But, you know, as with any deep dive into a complex system, there is always an unexpected variable that threatens to disrupt the entire balance. And the ESPN broadcast left us with a highly provocative thought to consider.
Oh, right. What did they tease at the end?
So at the very end of the broadcast, the pundits promoted a segment running on their YouTube channel. And it turns out, while the entire world spent the day marveling at Lionel Messi's historic hat-trick against Algeria, there's actually a massive bubbling controversy within the refereeing community.
Over what?
Over whether Messi should have been sent off with a straight red card during that very same game.
Wait, really? A red card for Messi during a hat-trick performance?
Yes. The panel was getting into a really heated debate about a specific challenge he made, and it raises an incredibly important question for us based on the tactical scaffolding we just analyzed.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Think back to that ecosystem we broke down. We know exactly how hard the 10 teammates have to work just to keep the aging superstar supported and insulated, right?
Yeah, sprinting to cover his gaps.
Exactly. But what happens to that carefully calibrated system if the player at the center of it doesn't just fade, but gets forcibly ejected from the match entirely?
Oh, wow.
What does a red card for a player who is supposedly bigger than the sport do to the balance of the tournament?
It's a fascinating alternate reality to consider. I mean, it would absolutely test the true resilience of the players who have spent years willingly living in his shadow. Ejecting the centerpiece completely shatters that gravity.
It would be chaos.
It absolutely would completely change the gravity of the World Cup. I highly encourage you to ponder that exact scenario as you watch the next round of group stage matches. Thank you so much for exploring these incredible sources with us today. Until next time, keep looking deeper.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this match report, don't forget to subscribe to Speed Cup TV, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another exciting football match. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave your opinion in the comments below. The best comment will be the lucky winner, so make sure to share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next match on Speed Cup TV.